Thanks for tuning in again, everybody. We're back with your favorite podcast, Luca's Tigers and Bronze. Oh my. Luca's Tigers of Bronze. Oh my. Luca Nation, as Andrew likes to say. We got our special Friday guest episode. I'm kicking this off here. This is a just rare treat for me. And I was going to try to come up with some catchy name here, right, for the Coffee with Cage, because we got Brett McGrath from Stacking Slabs with us. I was going to, some fancy, is it going to be tea with Brett? Is it going to be kombucha with Brett? Make Andrew happy. And he holds up a can of Diet Coke, guys. I mean, so that's it. It's, we got Diet Coke with Brett, and it's a man after my own heart. I love it. So that's it. There's the kickoff. Andrew, go right ahead and take it on over. We're going to do some question and answer, and hopefully Brett's able to chime in and give us some answers as well.
I'm honored to be. I'm honored to be back on the show. You guys have been killing it, blowing up my Instagram feed and creating great content. So pumped to join the show again.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, guys. So this was the thought process, right? So we give you guys daily plays, strategies, cards to take a look at. We have our Sunday NFL preview segment, and we've been doing this for the last 2 weeks. The Coffee with Cage segment. We take questions from our audience. And it seems like you guys love us and you love this segment. So what we wanted to do was bring kind of a recurring guest on, but with a twist. And I don't know how it's going to go. I think it's going to go great personally. But Brett has some questions from his audience. We have some questions from our audience. We have some questions from previous weeks I haven't got to. So without further ado, Brett, do you want me to start with the questions that we got?
Yeah, let's run your questions. We covered a lot of mine for your audience. We just recorded an episode on my show that'll be live in a week. So let's start with yours.
I love it. I hope this isn't too tactical, too technical, but this is important, right? And this goes from both of you guys. Brett and Cage both have really, really, really robust collections. And Mike Detlef, he asks, with a collection as extensive as Cage and Brett's, how do you guys go about tracking? What do you guys use to track profit? And also, this might be a little bit of a touchy subject, but how do you guys think about tax implications on profit? Kick us off, Cage.
All right, so easy. So I'm an old school guy. I track everything on Excel spreadsheets. Sometimes I have too many of them. What I buy, what I sell, the day I buy it, I try to keep track of like who I bought it from. And I'll do a different spreadsheet for different collections. I have a spreadsheet of just Devontae Graham, for example. I have a spreadsheet for Trey. if I'm going to be buying in a certain month, enough cards where I know I'm going to be sending in a PSA submission, I'll have, December 2020 PSA sub spreadsheet where I'll list every card that I bought for that submission. Then I'll put on the bottom of it how much I pay for that submission. And when I get them back and I start selling them, this is the PSA 8 of this one, whatever it is. So add the grading fee in, you figure out your total basis into that card and then, what you're able to sell it for and keep track of that sub as its own little own unit. I have more spreadsheets than I know what to do with. And it makes it real easy for tax implications. You sell enough cards. Yeah, there's a case out there. It's called Glenshaw Glass for those of you lawyers in the audience.
Let's go, Cage.
You need to
drop some knowledge on us.
You need to pay taxes for any accession to wealth, not just an accession to wealth where a 1099 comes in the mail because you hit that PayPal threshold of 200 transactions and $20,000. Anytime you're making money, you're supposed to be declaring it for taxes. I'm an over declarer and an oversharer. So even if I don't get that 1099 from PayPal, I'm letting the IRS know what I did that year on my cards. And those spreadsheets make it a little bit easier for me to do that. I keep track of everything. I'm nuts. I have an envelope with every year's worth of USPS, the post office receipts, anything I use for shipping, sometimes FedEx, but it's all in one humongous envelope. I keep track of all that stuff. I keep track of, all my costs. I don't go as far as to keep track of like the miles that I drive to the post office, but what I would tell you is if it's something that you're concerned about, the tax implications, whoever prepares your taxes, you got to speak to them and let them know, and they'll figure out, because it's listen, there are long-term gains there. It's different treatment if you're doing it as a business as opposed to a hobby. There's different percentages based on how long you've held the cards. There's all kinds of stuff what you can and can't write off. So I'm not a pro in that. I just did sleep at a Holiday Inn Express last night. So the big thing I'll tell you, of course, is, speak to your tax professional about it, but keeping track of your stuff makes that easier.
Yeah, I'm fortunate where I am the son of a retired accountant, so nice. I get all of my tax stuff taken care of, and I don't even have to worry about it. So that's a nice benefit for me. But I spend a lot of my time in spreadsheets, and when I'm having fun in the hobby, I don't really want to spend time in spreadsheets. And I think that's a blessing and it's a curse for me, right? I don't necessarily operate and live by every last margin. While I do think it's important, I think this is an opportunity in the space where the hobby in general, and I had Darren Herman, who is in technology, private equity. He does angel investing. I had him on the show and we were talking about innovations that needed to happen in the hobby. And one of the topics was collection management and collection management software, and how there's an opportunity in the space because we all have cards that we want to be tracked and we want to know what we bought them. And we have solutions like a card ladder right now that does a great job. But then what does that mean for all the old 90s cards that they're not necessarily tracking today? So for me, I think that's an opportunity for someone out there to build a company around a solution that can help in this process for everyone who's buying, selling, and trading cards. But I think for me, I use Card Ladder right now because the cards I'm selling are the cards that are very liquid and that platform is tracking. So I will track my sales and my cards through that platform, and then put those monies or whatever I get from those sales. They do a nice job of just tracking that history. So I hate spreadsheets just because I live in them. So I try to look for any technology possible to simplify and make my life easier.
We're working with a gentleman from Luca Nation. His name's Oliver. So be on the lookout. In the next few weeks, we'll have a template for you guys that you could just copy and replicate, and it'll all be in Excel sheets. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you, Oliver, for
Oliver's
reaching
the
out to
man.
us.
Oliver worked on Family Guy. This is the audience.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
It's
wow.
pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty sweet stuff.
If a player's, and this one I want Brett to open up with, because Brett's a big wrestling fan, and he has insight into wrestling that I think a lot of our guests, recent guests, may not have shared. If a player's performance influences card prices and performances lead to spikes, then why has Pokemon and wrestling cards spiked so rapidly recently? Nothing really happened with Pokemon or wrestling. Is it all just hype and social media influencers? Or what do you think it is?
So I think the biggest thing, right, there's a rise in sports cards, and that's just the narrative of 2020, just new people getting in, nostalgia. Everyone immediately went into sports because basketball, football, baseball, those are what you think of when you think of cards. I think the nostalgia play, I'm not a Pokemon guy. That I was a little late on that. I love watching people talk about it because I immediately listen to what they talk about and translate it to wrestling because it's just childhood passion. And I think it was just an evolution. I think people realized, okay, like I'm making money or I'm having fun with cards. Let me start collecting other cards that are not necessarily sports related, but are things that I care deeply about. So for me, obviously I'm a massive professional wrestling fan. I'm sitting in a room with wrestling figures, wrestling cards, posters, everything. And I just think like there's so much opportunity with wrestling cards, especially on the vintage wrestling cards and getting those cards graded. The margins, if you look at it, are ridiculous. I just sent a 200 vintage card order to PSA. That's like a $2,500 order for me, but I know based on getting it back, the margins are ridiculous. Then people talk about, well, is it just vintage wrestling cards? And I don't think it is. I think it like scarcity and serial numbered stuff on the modern is something to look at if you're interested. And I'll just close out with this is that you look at the Hulk Hogan's, the Ric Flairs, the Rocks, the legends that people are buying and cards that can continue to go up. if you're watching wrestling, there are living legends that are happening right now, but it's on the female side. The best female wrestlers of all time are performing right now. Hell, Gary just signed one of them. So like, I am just huge on, I'm showing up some cards. This is the Transcendent. This is the national treasure of Charlotte Flair cards. And I'm just buying Charlotte Flair limited slab stuff just because she is the Hulk Hogan and the daughter of Ric Flair. So what I will advise in closing is don't go buy wrestling cards if you don't care about wrestling, because you're going to fail. But if you're passionate about wrestling, go look into wrestling cards. So, because a lot of the same principles across all the sports can be applied to wrestling cards, and people just aren't operating that way right now.
My response to that is the fabulous Moolah and Wendy Richter come kick your ass for saying that the greatest wrestlers, women of all time are. Did
they headline a WrestleMania? Did they headline a WrestleMania?
Well,
I don't think so.
No, but a little nepotism never hurt anybody. Flair's great though. Don't get me wrong. Maybe Becky Lynch will come kick your ass for saying she's the greatest though. But I
got Becky too.
So and it's funny too, right? Because I love it. I love the answer. I love the passion, which is great. And the best little nugget that you have out of there is, we always talk about buy what you love. Obviously, Brett loves wrestling, but that love, that passion, that watching it, that knowing it is what allows him to know what's going to get him those margins, what to buy, what not to buy, what to stay away from. Don't get into a transcendent break. I mean, that's the suitcase. You know what I mean? Those are expensive cards. I was in one of those breaks myself. And it's an interesting thing to watch. I didn't know half the people.
Maybe one day you're going to be in one of those packs.
I am not.
You'll be a guest. I'm going to start appearance on WWE.
Alan
I'd love to see that.
We're starting. I have a great idea, by the way, for a wrestling tag team. I have a great idea. I'll pitch it to Vince McMahon one day. Trust me. I have a great idea. You know what? The hell with it. I'll drop it for the episode. But to answer the question, right? To stay on this one, right? It's wrestling Pokemon. It was just the natural course, right? So everybody's looking for the next best thing, the next one that's going to pop, right? Everybody saw basketball pop. Then it was basketball vintage. Then it was football. Everybody was looking for where to turn, right? And what was amazing about wrestling and Pokemon to some degree is it has that nostalgia. It has that pull the same way baseball cards, basketball cards have for people who are coming into money now. But what's amazing about it is even though, especially wrestling, the demand for it is not as high as for the major sports, but the fan base is rabid and the cards that are out there have such low pop because nobody's doing them. I mean, I owned we talk about this, the Flair 82 Wrestling All-Stars PSA 10. I owned one of the 5. It's not 6 that's in the pop report. Dave Peck, who was on, explained that it was really only 5. I had an Andre the Giant PSA 10 from 1973 Wrestling All-Stars. I mean, these are like Grail cards, and there's single digits of these things, right? And people want them. So you don't have to have the huge demand that like a baseball or basketball would have when the Grail cards that are out there are such low pop. So that's cool. And the same thing with Pokemon. Although Pokemon is a huge brand, but people kind of realized, that's going to be the next thing. And there are people out there right now today looking for what is the next one of those. Maybe it's UFC. I mean, maybe it's the Cage Lawyer. Maybe it's Izzy Adesanya, or who knows. But I think part of the Pokemon increase is, and the wrestling thing also, is there's a lot of, all right, I made my money on basketball. What's next? Yeah. And try to catch that wave. So I think wrestling has some staying power.
I would also urge you guys, if you're out there, and this was my first response, like, who's buying women's wrestling? Who's buying WNBA? I'd urge you to put your ego aside and try to do a little research. It's not always about you or how, and I'm really speaking to myself here, how I think. There are people out there who watch, and there is demand. So it's, money. If you're in this to make money, try to put your ego aside and do some research. Ryan Balthazar asks, better investment, sealed wax or individual cards? Brett, what do you think?
This is I would say probably sealed wax. However, it's hard for me to talk about it because I can't keep sealed wax. It's just not in my DNA. I'm a singles collector. If I buy wax, I'm ripping it. But if you look at the margin, like look at what a 2018, 2019 Prism hobby box has done, it's the growth is insane. And I think that'll continue. I mean, you can look at the Flair from Jordan's rookie year. It's nuts what those have done. So Probably sealed wax. If you have the control where you can just put it in a closet and let it sit, that's probably the best option if you're looking to make money.
So I think I agree with you. I mean, obviously we've talked about sealed wax and it's the way to go because you're able to buy an entire draft class. But I think the sealed wax folks have gotten spoiled by just the fantastic draft classes that we've had in the last couple of years in all sports, right? So, sorry about that, guys. I don't know if you could hear that. But the reality is, look at basketball, right? You've had the Zion Ja class, you've had the Luca Trey class. Before that, you had Tatum, Bam, you name it, right? The baseball, you had Soto, Acuna, and Tatis in the last couple of years, right? And football. Look at the quarterback class this year and last year and the year before, right? I mean, they've all just been amazing drafts with amazing prospects. But if you were to go on, and look at like 2015 or 2016 sealed wax, it hasn't. I mean, look, it's still more money because people will buy that because it's so much cheaper than the stuff from the last couple of years. But it didn't have the same meteoric rise that the other stuff did. So the only thing I would tell you with sealed wax is be a little cautious. Like I don't know whether or not I'd be stashing this year's basketball class, for example,
right,
as opposed to next year's basketball. Although, you know what, there might be somebody who comes out of this year's class that surprises the hell out of everybody and becomes like a huge guy. But I wouldn't be buying the 2021 basketball sealed expecting the same type of return as we got the last 2 years, just because it doesn't have the same draft class. And be mindful of that.
I totally agree with that point. And I'll say, just for people out there that might be interested in buying sealed wax and have control to look at it as an investment, one of the opportunities that you should start looking at, and it's gone up a little bit, but if you are a Patrick Mahomes truther, 2017 football, think about Brady cards, right? If you think Patrick Mahomes can be on that level and all the indications at this point early in his career give me signals that he can be in that conversation potentially, that is the type of investment when it comes to buying sealed wax that might be interesting right now.
It's a great way of looking at it, right? Because you already know that's the guy you want, but you might be able to get his stuff. The last 2 boxes of Pokemon first edition Wizards of the Coast 1999 sold for $375,000 and $360,000 the last 2 nights, right? And the Zard, the main card you get out of that, it does not sell for that much. Although this one at auction right now, who knows where it's going to end? But the sealed boxes, are selling for more than the best card in PSA 10 you can get out of them, which I guess makes sense. But you're right. I mean, that's a good way of playing Mahomes if you're not looking to spend the money on the Mahomes card you can get out of there, because you don't know if that box is going to have it, right? But if you're keeping it sealed, it doesn't matter. You're going to eventually sell it to somebody who's hoping the Mahomes is in there. So
people,
I get it.
And people, and this is why breaks sell out. This is why people love prospecting. Is people love to gamble on sports cards. And if like you have a gambling itch to you, like, and you don't want to go out and spend money on the Mahomes Silver Prism, buying a 2017 box and stashing it, there are thousands of people out there a year, 2 years, 3 years from now, if you want to put it up for sale, are going to want that box because they think Mahomes might be in there. So that's just playing to that psychology is a good way to roll, I think, in order to try to make some funds if you are able to hold sealed wax, which I already told you I cannot.
I can't either, by the way. It takes a special breed.
Brett, what's your favorite wax product that you've ever ripped?
Oh, that's a good question. Favorite wax product that I ever ripped. I've had a blast. Just this is the first thing that comes to mind is I've had a blast this year with Topps WWE products, because the Undisputed product, which is a higher end product, and then also the Topps Chrome, because I love Chrome. They're affordable hobby boxes in relation to basketball cards or football cards right now. So like the ability to like just be like, I want to spend my Saturday ripping 3 hobby boxes of WWE Topps Chrome and not worry about the price of it. That to me is satisfying. I know, like, yeah, I might not hit that, gold Ja or gold Zion in it, but like I can hit cards that are going to make me happy. And I have in doing that. I pulled I have it for grading. I'm going to show, this is going for grading, but I did it and I pulled this Shawn Michaels gold of 50 autograph. And when I hit this bad boy, dude, it was like the best day ever. Like, it was like cancel all plans. I just got this Shawn Michaels auto. So I think, like, for me, wrestling stuff just makes me happy, and the hobby boxes are affordable. So that was top of mind when you threw it out there.
I'll get to you in just one sec, Cage. But what it sounds like to me is, when you put that big bet in on a game and you can't even enjoy the game because you have so much money at stake, the really fun hobby boxes are the ones that you don't care if you get nothing out of them because you don't have enough invested. So that's kind of interesting, I think, right? It's not the box that you're spending $5,000 on. It's the $50 box where it's just a pleasant surprise if you get anything. It's for the experience and the enjoyment. Cage, you're looking at me like you want to say something really mean or really kind.
No, not really. Just, I mean, we've talked about, opening wax. I've opened so much wax in my life. It's ridiculous. I can't.
All right, I'll move on.
My favorite one of opening was a blaster box this year with my son, who got a cool Zion card out of it, because that really is supposed to be what it's all about. Although, I'm not really sold on Zion, and I have a ton of fun opening Revolution boxes with my son. He loves the Chinese New Year ones, which, there's no guaranteed auto in them, but I talk about these all the time, because if there's anybody out there looking for a product to break and still get in on the madness, get in on the fun, get in on the the Zion and Ja class, or even the year before, it is not that crazy. You can buy that Revolution box and open it up, and I open it with my son, and it's shiny. You get all the whole same fun of, these crazy cards, the potential for an autograph and that kind of stuff, and you're still able to get a Zion, which, by the way, is hard to get in PSA 10. I sent a couple of Zions in. I didn't get a 10 on any of them because that's a real condition-sensitive set too.
Before we get, because Brett has some questions from his audience. Before we get to those, Cage, this is going to be live tonight. Do you want to tell people a little bit about this NFL playoff break you got going on?
Sure.
I've been talking about Tua forever, so I hope we pull it Tua.
If you happen to be listening to this, and if you listen to it before 9 p.m., great. After 9 p.m., come on over. But if you listen to this tonight, as we're dropping this, November 20th, starting 9 o'clock Eastern time, we're going to be live on Instagram. We've never done it before, but I was able to convince my local card shop that I buy a bunch of stuff from to basically give me stuff. What I think is not a huge markup. I don't know what his cost is. He's not going to give me the full behind the screen, but it's definitely cheaper than anything that I'm seeing on eBay. It's release day. It's hobby specific. It's 2020 Panini Playoff. That's the card. It's got the preview of the Contenders rookie ticket autograph in it. They're pretty limited. I can't guarantee we're going to get one of those in our case, but I got a bunch of boxes. A lot of people already signed up. A lot of people have jumped in for breaks. It's a great draft class. The price is really low compared to, like I said, what it's available for eBay on, and also, for other products. It's not Prism, but you're getting your Tua, your Burrow, your Herbert in their pro uniforms, potential autographs. The hobby box have 2 autos, 2 memorabilia in each. We're doing all kinds of different, drafts, individual boxes, random divisions. There'll be a price point for everybody. And even if you're not looking to buy and jump in a break, then, just come in and hang out. Like we said, we're doing this just to another way to kind of, connect with the community, bring the hobby to folks. About half the people who have bought into break so far are people who have bought in and told us this is their first time breaking, which is the coolest part, right? So, we're not professional breakers. You'll see when I get on there, I'm sure there'll be some technical difficulties and whatnot. I've never done this before. I don't have a mat. There's no, specifically done up Lucas, Tigers, and Bronze breaking mat. I might even be using a Mealy Pops cutter. Who knows? it is what it is. But my son in the background there, he's got my tripod, so at least I got that going on. But yeah, it should be exciting, and hopefully you guys, if you hear this and you're listening to it on the the day that we drop this on November 20th, come by and say hi, even if you have no intention of buying anything. We'll answer some stuff. I'm gonna have a bunch of giveaways. I got a bunch of extra slabs. I pulled a bunch of stuff that I've gotten back in my last 3 or 4 PSA returns. I'm gonna be doing giveaways all night long, and it should be fun.
Love it. Brett, I have questions for days, but I want to get to a few from your audience. I think they had some basketball questions, right, about Kevin Durant, so I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I got we'll get to the KD one, but one topic. So when we recorded on my show, we brought this player came up, and I actually got a question from Card Collector 1427 about this guy. We're talking Trey Young again, so get ready, guys. So
the hobby darling of the week.
And you know what's funny? When we took a break, I got on and started looking at his cards, and I'm looking at his chart, man. My mind is blown. This is such a hobby reaction right now. But I'll get to the damn question. I'm sorry, but Trey Young is an unbelievable player. But like what I'm seeing on this chart, man, this is the hobby hype right now. Ride that train. But the question is, are the Trey prices being pumped right now? And is it time to sell Trey?
This is an easy question for me. I'll answer it no and yes. I don't think they're being pumped at all. I think it is the time to sell, and I put my money where my mouth is. I've spoken about this on the last couple of episodes. I've actually sold some Trey in the last couple of days. I sold them for cheaper than they're selling for now. So I guess, that was a slight mistake, if you want to call it that. I don't look at it that way, but it's funny because I saw the people that I want to make them listeners of the show. They already were listeners of the show. People I want to continue to, have a hobby interaction with. I try to do that anyway, because if somebody buys from me, I want to make sure that they're happy. So they're messaging me, these are great cards. Thanks. They got here safe, that kind of stuff. And, I'm never going to, drop a transaction and say, goodbye, don't bother me with this. You got to make sure people are happy end to end. But more importantly, I can talk to them and say, why are you buying? And they answer. And I say, you're buying these cards. I have more. What you thought on Trey? You think he's going to be one of the top 50 NBA players of all time? You think the Hawks are going to be better this year? And both people that I sold multiple cards to had almost the exact same answer. It was basically a FOMO. It was basically, I think it's going to continue to go up. And when it goes up to the number I have set for it, I'm going to sell. No one was, I think Trey is a great long-term hold. No one was, and I know there are people out there who think that, no one was, Trey is going to be fantastic the whole year. He's going to average 100 points a game. And, 1 second. And so my deal on it is everybody basically, and one guy I sold to is already selling it. So it basically has gone up enough where he decided he's going to buy a bulk of them, buy 6, buy 8, buy 9, and then make a couple $100 on each one. To me, that is the very epitome of the hobby hype, right? That is the best example of no one's buying it because of underlying fundamentals. They're buying it on a bet that they can ride the wave and cash out a little higher than where I'm cashing out. So,
and I'm gonna respond to that just because I think that's interesting that I know people play that game. And that I think that's really interesting. Whenever I think of Trey Young in the hobby, I think of my man Lameen James, because the guy that is his brand. Trey Young, he is a Trey Young collector, and he's got Trey Young Flawless, just Trey Young Prism, Trey Young, you name it, for days. And his collection's unreal if you've got the chance to check out his IG lives where he shows it off. But, with Trey Young, like, while he is a unbelievable player, all-star, he's going to be great forever. Like, there was something about his game in the comparison to a Steph Curry that attracted Lameen to Trey coming out of college, and he's just been all in on that. So he's a Trey Young collector, and he doesn't necessarily ride the waves of the ups and downs of the market. Right. He just collects these cards. But like now, I don't think he's selling, but now he's in the position right now where it's like, man, instead of making maybe $200 off a Trey card that I just bought, like he could probably make thousands and thousands of dollars if he wanted to. So I think that it's be very, very, my recommendation to everyone is just be very, very cautious, because stuff can go down quickly, and having like kind of a collector's mindset and being all in on a player that you truly believe in because you studied them is a good mentality to have. And you can win in both ways. I just think the collector mindset with a player like Trey, you might win bigger, but it might just take a little longer.
I also like Trey. Just to add on this, I'm a Trey fan. I like his cards. Part of what I'm selling are the unnumbered cards. I mean, I'm keeping my purple out of 75, my red out of 299. And, we talked earlier, but I'm going to use the Trey money to buy something else. And, I have my eye on something, but there are people out there we know who are selling Trey base and silver and buying Trey RPAs, for example, so.
And that I think, like, we shouldn't brush over that, because what you just described to me is like ideal hobby operating. You're selling off like silvers or base cards, but you believe in this player and you're holding their scarce rare cards. And I think just having that mindset, like you're going to win more doing it that way. I just love hearing that, because it's taken me a while, but I've evolved my operating to be more focused in that direction. I think it just helps mitigate risk.
I've heard a lot of people do that, by the way, the whole move over to RPA and that kind of stuff. It does concern me a little bit hobby wise, because believe it or not, our hobby for the last 2 years, let's call it the immense growth, is really built on the back of PSA 10 base and silver. It really is. I mean, that is what people come in and they buy, whether or not that's the smart way to go, whether or not it's ideal, you name it. But I wonder if you have people, the mentality is cashing out on those, and you got more and more people saying, I'm getting out. Does that have sort of a ripple effect in their standing, and then you have people who are stockpiling those cards, and you see the value go down, and then it's, oh man, are they out of the hobby now? So I'm curious to see how it goes, because I'm hearing that a lot more now, people selling.
Yeah. I think that's a good take to have, and for people to be aware of. I think just the interesting thing is when there's pullback in the market with the base cards and cards were dropping, NBA was done. The more collectible, the more scarce that market was continuing to go up. So I think it's just for the audience, just be mindful of the different segments in the market and just pay attention to it. Because if you're in the data, you don't need to be in the data 24/7, but if you're in the data a little bit, you're going to make smarter decisions on when to buy and sell.
I love it. This is a question from Chris Hodge. Which NBA player will unexpectedly shatter expectations next season? Brett, what do you think?
So I'm really biased, but if anybody listens to me or has listened to me for the jump,
Kyler Murray.
No, Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning.
So this is my answer, and it's all in one player, and his name is Sekou Doumbouya from the Detroit Pistons. This is my guy. He's been my guy. Golds, silvers. This kid, if you look at, first of all, I love the draft from last year. Absolutely love it. It's going to be deep. It's going to be one of the better drafts in recent memory. But Sekou, youngest player in the league when drafted, he is just, from my studying basketball, and I'm not a pro scout, but he has so many intangibles. If you get a chance, go look up Tristan Thompson, Sekou Doumbouya in YouTube, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But this kid, he just got a new point guard. He's in the best situation, I think, out of almost any young guy, because he is getting the keys to Detroit this year. And no one's really talking about it yet, but this kid is an incredible talent. He is just, the sky is the limit, like highest ceiling, I think, imaginable. So could I be wrong on this? Absolutely. And I'll put my money where my mouth is, but based on my personal assessment, me studying this guy, me getting into Pistons message boards, me doing deep research, following the beat writers in Detroit, this kid is something special. So I've been on him from day one, and I'm so excited about him that, like, when I'm not looking at cards, I'm in Google hitting the news feed, refresh, and see if there's a new story out on him.
Wow.
I've known Brett for a long time. I haven't seen him that passionate or adamant, and since he got that Shawn Michaels card. So if there's someone you want to tail, or maybe take a look at what Brett is saying and do some of your own research, I just got a Sekou Doumbouya Prism PSA 10. I pulled it myself, so I had the urge to give it away, but maybe I'll stash that in my my collection. Cage, how about you?
It's not the Heartbreak Kid, right? It's the Heartbreak Kid. No, so I mean,
dude, Heartbreak Kid is such a good movie.
Sekou, Brett, watch Andrew. You ready?
Yeah.
So my pick for who's going to be the most impressive this year, come out of nowhere, like fantastic, most improved player award winner, is Cam Reddish.
Love it.
No, I'm just kidding.
Nice try.
He can't stand Cam Reddish. Just kidding. He can't stand.
I like him. I've gone to the club with Cam. We get bottles all the time. It's not a big deal. I'm just talking about his offensive game.
So I'm going to answer two ways. I'm going to give you two guys that I've already picked that I think will be in the MIP conversation, but they're, I like what you did. I'll try to do that as well on another one. But my two guys for where I think they're going to be this year, John Collins from Atlanta. I think he's fantastic. He's improved every year. And I think that he's going to take a real leap forward this year into hobby stardom. Playing with Trey and the whole. I think he's going to take a real step forward, all-star. Average over 20 points a game this year and be in that MIP conversation. And this is funny because I gave this play before, and I'm even doubling down on it now. But I think Kelly Oubre, who was traded to Oklahoma City, and it looks like now he's going to be on the Warriors. Which I thought it was good when he went to Oklahoma City, and he was going to have basically the keys to the offense and run it. And now he's moving over, it looks like, to Golden State, where he's going to play with Steph Curry, right? I don't know if that was guaranteed or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Either one of those situations, wherever he ends up, I think that guy's averaging over 20 points a game. If it happens to be with Golden State, great, because he gets to play with Steph and gets to play on a team that's going to have a lot of talk going into this year. Are they coming back? Are they, obviously with Clay injured, that kind of sucks. But you talk about a guy who's been the number 2 guy in a West Conference team when nobody even cared. He's got all the tools. So those are two guys that I think are most improved player candidates. As far as prospecting, I like your Sekou play because he at one point last year, right, he was the youngest player in the NBA, right? So
19.
Talk about a guy who has a potential real upside to him, right? This draft class for hobby, I think Obi Toppin is going to be fantastic. He landed in the best situation for him. He landed in New York. You got a young guy who they are going to let run the offense. And if you watch any of his game, the guy's a high flyer. He's a dunking machine, right? Basically dunks every time, like Zion type stuff, but like above the rim, will dunk. Even if he has an open layup, he'll dunk it. You know what I mean? Like very exciting, very fit for a couple things. One, our way of consuming the hobby now. The clips, right? The Instagram, instead of watching the whole game. Andrew talks about this all the time. And he's, your highlight reel kind of guy, but also he's playing in New York. New York's looking for somebody to do that. Grab some headlines, be hobby relevant. RJ Barrett was kind of like a sleepy guy last year. He didn't grab any headlines. He didn't really take the ball and run with it. This kid, Toppin, I think he's going to be really good. And, New York needs somebody like that. We haven't had a New York basketball star in quite some time. I think New York's going to be better. I think they haven't finished making their moves. I don't know whether that's Gordon Hayward. I don't know whether that's Russell Westbrook. I don't know who they're bringing in. But my name for this year is lottery pick Obi Toppin.
I love it. I'm going to give a quick draft pick because in the spirit of absolutely pure speculation where no one knows anything right now, the guy that stands out for me post-draft on where he ended up is Denny Avdija. And I just, before the draft, I did a lot of work on him and really, really liked everything I saw. But then when I saw he landed in Washington, and I know it's different this year, but if you watched Washington last year in the bubble, I know they didn't have Beal. I know they didn't have John Wall, but Rui Hachimura had the keys to that team and did nothing with it. It was very passive. And that's why I sold all my Rui cards. I was like, man, he's getting the situation right now. And like, he's doing nothing with it. Avdija is a guy that could go into Washington and literally be the guy. And he's matured. His father played professionally. He's just a guy I really, really like. And then I really, really like the situation he ended up in Washington.
What if I told you guys Ja Morant? What if Ja Morant takes that next step? We think he had a really good last season. Who has a better situation than he does? He has a team of young studs around him. He has the keys to the kingdom. He's a guy that has a chip on his shoulder and always has. It's interesting how we out of sight, out of mind, right? Like we think Trey could take that next jump. I think Ja Morant is an interesting guy that, and if we're talking about sports cards and hobby, his prices haven't exploded. And why wouldn't he take that next step, right? I hear the sophomore slump, but I like what I see from that Memphis team. Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to be back. I'm not saying that Ja Morant will, but I'm saying that a lot of the variables are in place for him to take that next step and maybe put up 28, 10, and 7, 28, 10, and 9. He could put up Westbrook numbers. He's a very similar player, probably a little bit of a better shooter. Something to think about. I've been thinking about that a lot this week with every other guy hype, where Ja Morant, last year's Rookie of the Year, probably could have even beat Portland and got to the playoffs. He's in a good situation there. Brett, you want to go with the question?
Yeah.
From your audience? I don't want to feel left out.
Why don't we do at, this is a fun handle, at Calvin French Fries. What's up, Calvin? I need to get some fries tonight. That sounds good.
By the way, Calvin, if you do not listen to us, we need you as a listener. We want you to join Luca Nation with a nickname, French Fries. I'll take it, Calvin. Let's go. I want some fries.
Friday.
Man, I'm gonna ask my mom if she can make some fries for Thanksgiving. Get this baked potato, mashed potato stuff out of here. I want some fries with salt, tons of salt, and make them extra unhealthy. But here's the question: what KD cards besides the top chrome and tops cards are worth buying? And I will say I've never really gotten to the KD market, so I'm not very intelligent when it comes to that. I don't know if you guys have looked at Kevin Durant cards and have any perspective there.
I'm gonna get skewered.
I'll take it real quick.
Please.
I have a
kombucha with Andrew. Go for it.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna be quick. I have a little deal with Lameen. He's doing a mural of Kyrie, KD, and Harden in one, and I'm just gonna get that. I'm gonna buy it off Lameen and grade it by PSA. And I'm just gonna have it all year and wait till that's just a disaster. Sorry, Cage. Go ahead.
I'm gonna have to answer it honestly because that's what I promise all you guys. I'm gonna answer these things honestly. There is not a KD card I would buy right now. I hope that's not a cop out. I would sell any of the cards of KD I have. I think Brooklyn's going to be a train wreck. I think Kyrie is. I don't even know what to say. The world's flat when it comes to Kyrie. But KD has done his stuff, right? And I know that there are people out there. Look, if you're looking for like a quick hitter on KD, fine, I get it. There'll probably be a game where he comes out and surprises and drops a whole bunch of points. It might be in the beginning of the season, he scores 50 or whatever it is, and you're like, wow, look at KD. But the injury he's coming back from is a tough injury to come back from. I think his best years, his best games and the best version of KD is behind him. I never really loved KD myself. I don't like the if you can't beat him, join him type of player. And that's what I think he did.
He couldn't even come back from a loss to the Warriors. Why could he come back from an Achilles tear?
Well, I mean, it's part of it, right? I mean, but look, I don't see the Brooklyn experiment with him and Kyrie working as well as everybody else thinks it is. I also I remember when the Brooklyn Nets thing started, everybody went nuts. All buying Brooklyn jerseys. It was like a cool thing. Brooklyn, Jay-Z, all this fun stuff. Does it really matter? I mean, are people going to buy KD cards because he's on Brooklyn now? I mean, does it really? In the NBA, I guess stuff like that used to matter, right? And it used to matter that you got to play at Madison Square Garden, and that was a draw to play in front of the fans, and I don't think it mattered. I think every one of these teams has enough of a market. I think it's all televised. I think it's all, it's all Instagram. It's all fun. I don't think the Brooklyn thing really brings too much to them. And what are you going to have? You're going to have a middle of the road Eastern Conference team that may win a playoff series and then get unceremoniously beat by either, Milwaukee, the Heat, or whoever it is that's going to knock them out of the playoffs. So, I mean, I would not be sinking my money in Kevin Durant right now. I could probably give you 20 other places in the NBA where I would tell you to put the money before that.
I follow a lot of people in the hobby and talk with a lot of people in the hobby regularly. And I don't know one KD truther that has just stacks of KD cards and that's what they collect. It could happen, but he's not a guy. It's like LeBron, man. You've got your LeBron collectors, you got your Brady collectors. It's like Kevin Durant is a great freaking player, undeniably one of the best scorers ever, but he doesn't have that passionate fan base. And it could be for the reasons Cage said. He left his city and went to go win a championship. And now he's left and he went to Brooklyn. He's just not a ultra collectible player, in my opinion.
He puts me to sleep. Just his persona, his game. It's just there's nothing there to it. I think part of what you can't miss is, the collectability of some of these guys, it goes beyond the amount of points they score, right? It's a little bit of flash. It's a little bit of that something extra, right? When you buy these guys, I'll go back to baseball. It's what got me into Tatis, right? I mean, it's not just what he's doing on the field. It's he's I have friends who have daughters who want a Tatis jersey because he dances in the dugout and let's go see a game and that kind of stuff. That's bigger than the top scorer. KD just doesn't have anything extra. He doesn't have any it to him. The worst thing that happened to KD was Greg Oden sucking. Because if Greg Oden was better, they could have had a nice rivalry going, kind of like Melo and LeBron, or Trey and Luka, whatever it was. That all right, maybe he could have fought and had a chip on his shoulder about how you guys drafted Greg Oden, you morons. That was the worst thing that happened to him. Oden was terrible from the beginning. So
let me add a little value real quick. If the person on the other end, or if you're listening and you're really you're buying into KD, right? These are just three man's opinions here. If you're buying into KD and you don't want to feel left out, buy one of his cards. Buy just one stock in him and set it aside. That way you won't feel like you missed the train as it left the station, but you're also not dumping all of your bankroll into it. It's just a nice way, because what's the worst thing is when you listen to three talking heads, right. You take their advice and then 2 months goes by and his card goes through the roof and you're like, these Luka guys, bleep, bleep. And then you missed
but French fry man. I mean, I forget his name, Brett, but the French fry guy who asked the question, right? Calvin French fry, right? So if you're a KD fan, buy KD. If that's what you love and you believe he's going to do well, I'd venture to say that if you bought some KD Prism cards, his Brooklyn jersey, the first one with him standing there with the ball, or some of his lower end rookie cards, if you wanted to, and hang on to them for the next 2 months, and when he goes out there and has that game in December, you can message me and say, you were wrong. I bought these cards for $10 each and I sold them all for $35 and I was able to make money. If that's what you're looking for, I think that KD is a viable play. I think there will be a time in the season where you could probably sell his cards for more than they're currently going for. But he's just not somebody that I'm putting my money into now. That, again, doesn't mean that it's the wrong place to put your money.
I have to shout this out just because we just spent like 10 minutes talking about KD and KD cards and him standing there in that card. He's getting plugged again, but you got to check out Lameen's meme on this. He went and compiled every Kevin Durant Nets card all together, and he's apathetically standing there, just hands like hand on basketball in every one of these pictures in the most unexciting pose ever. And then there's one card, one product where he has a basketball in, or he's no basketball, hands on his hips. And to me, that picture screams about how excited not only he is, but the rest of the hobby is about him. So go check out that meme he put out there. It's pretty fun.
KD, I remember talking about KD with my son because my son actually likes the Nets. He's a Dinwiddie fan. And he likes watching the Nets.
Your son changes his favorite player every week. He said that it's on record.
He does. But he's 7, so he's allowed. It is what it is. You change. Sometimes when we do our episode, there's a different girl behind you every week too. So you're allowed to change your mind too. I get it.
I'm 7. I'm allowed.
They're allowed. You're allowed. So this is the deal, right? So my what I was saying with it is he was so excited when the season got pushed back because he's like, all right, well the Nets are making the playoffs. And KD's going to come and play now that he's healthy. It's been long enough where KD's ready and he's going to come out and the Nets are going to have a low seed, but they're going to sneak up on everybody because they're going to get KD back. And then before it was even talked about, KD came out and made sure everyone knew he was not going to come out and play. And even though his team was going to go out there and go in the bubble, he was not coming back and play. It's not really a health thing. It's just, he's going to make sure for next season. And to me, that's not somebody I'm going to put my money into. That's just, that's all.
Him and Kyrie were planning the new league they're starting. So he needed that time to do business. Brett, Chris Hodge asked, where do you see the Kobe market a year from now?
Continuing to go up. I think a steady stream. There's a guy that the hobby's behind. And I think obviously tragedy hit this year. And I think he is the type of player and collector that's got a passionate fan base that are going to continue to buy Kobe Bryant cards forever. He transcends the hobby. He is the heartbeat of LA. He is their sports icon, and his just passion for the game and just what he did to the game that impacts so many people in the hobby. So I would say just like, I hate comparing cards to Michael Jordan, but like, look at what Jordan's cards have done just from a macro perspective. Like I think getting in and buying Kobe Bryant cards is a very sound and safe investment.
The toughest part of Kobe for me is not whether or not to buy him, it's what to buy.
That's a great point.
So, and there are people out there, we've talked to some of the smartest people in the hobby who say, I don't want the chrome. I don't want his 96 chrome, which to me stands out as the card. You know, like if something's going to be his card, that's the one you want. But there are people out there, no, that's not who I want. I want autographs of him. Okay, well, which one? Because, you know, we talk about this. There are more Kobe variant autos than maybe anyone. So to me, I love the idea of Kobe. I think it doesn't even really matter what you put your money in. But the what I will have to do research on before I dump significant money into Kobe is what Kobe. So there is always that.
In a way to maybe address that, because that's how I felt when I got into Peyton Manning cards and the legend. I can compare the two. For me, what's really helped in buying Peyton Manning cards, that might be a direction for Kobe collectors, is looking at their career and looking at the moments that really mattered and buying cards from those years. So like buying, for me, the Colts won the Super Bowl 41, 2006. So I wanted a serial numbered Peyton Manning Topps Chrome card from that year so I could have that card and say, this was the year the Colts won the Super Bowl. So Kobe Bryant has a myriad of moments that you could apply that strategy to, and it might make some sense of how to start collecting.
Makes sense. Good idea.
I have just one more question for Preston. Any questions you want to get to, Brett?
I think I'm it. That's it for me.
Nice.
Not a card question, Cage, but just life question. I would love to know what you guys are most proud of in your life and maybe some goals you have for the future. Cage and then Brett.
Whoa.
Brett and then Cage.
What I'm most proud of. Jeez. This is like, it's like tearjerker stuff over here. When we start talking about like goals, Andrew's a big goal guy, right? And he's like, oh, what do you want? What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Where do you see this stuff? And it's funny because the thing that I pride myself most on is I try to be a good dad. I try to be a good person. I think that's what I'm most proud of. I've been in this hobby for a long time, and I've never ended up on anybody's scammer list. I've never ended up on the wrong end of it. That not to besmirch people who have, because a lot of people end up on those things for the wrong reason. But I try to be a good person, whether it's in my personal life, whether it's in business, whether it's the whole deal. And, I don't think you'll be able to find anybody out there that I've traded with, sold a card to, bought a card from, who's going to say that I gave him a shit deal. And to me, that's the same thing as, one of my favorite movies, right? A little Scarface. All I got is my word, and my balls. I don't break either for nobody, right? So, I can't do the accent that good, but that's what I'm most proud of. My name actually means something. I'll pass it on to my kids, and hopefully it means the same kind of thing to them. Hopefully that answers your question, Preston. As far as goals going forward, I love that every day I log on and I see more listeners in Luca Nation than I did the day before. Now, we've been doing this 4 months. Never once has it gone down. And it goes up in appreciable amounts every single day, which to me means Andrew and I are doing something right. It means you like us, which is why we're hoping you do that. It means you're telling people about us. It means you're spreading it out there. So my goal is, at least for the rest of the year, and maybe into the next year, and maybe the next decade, who the hell knows, that every day I wake up, I check those number stats. They're higher than they were the day before. Easy.
Love that.
Right.
Yeah, from my end, I think just the first part of the question is most proud of.
Yeah, man. It's really broad. Really broad.
Wow. Geez. So I would say
proud of his Shawn Michaels auto. Yes.
I would say that I think that I'm proud of, and this is kind of hard because it's kind of like I'm talking about myself, which I'm not necessarily great about, but I think one of the things is that like I try to always have an open mind and understand that everyone comes from different background situations and circumstances. And before I cast my opinion on something or a topic, I want to make sure I understand who the person is I'm talking with, or people, and where they're coming from and perspective. And I think like we're in such a polarizing climate in the country. And I think like, you know, if everyone were to take a step back and do a little more listening and less talking and sharing their opinions, we'd probably be in a better place just as a country. So that from my end, like that's an observation going into 2020 that I observed happening around me, and I was guilty of it myself. And it's just, that's something I try to be mindful every day. Is just, especially interacting on Instagram with people you don't know in the hobby. It's like, you gotta, there's gotta be a way where you're doing listening and you're engaging in a way that's gonna, that builds your brand, right? So that's something that I think I'm proud of, that it's been an evolution for me. Goals, I think when I think about what I do on Stacking Slabs in the show, and where my skill sets are, I constantly, and what I do professionally, I constantly see holes and opportunities and gaps in the sports card market. We're operating in an $8 to $9 billion market with very little regulation, very little infrastructure, and a lot of opportunities to innovate. So I work in technology professionally. I solution problems. I do podcasts. I market. And so I'm constantly looking at the hobby from probably a different lens than a lot of people. In terms of where can we innovate, where can we build companies to help support this hobby, because we all believe that it's going to continue to grow. So I think from a goal perspective, I think I'm constantly looking for ways that I can channel what I do professionally and apply it to the hobby, and build solutions that's going to support the infrastructure and allow me to be more involved in sports cards 24/7.
There you guys have it, Luca Nation. That wraps another Q&A, Coffee with Cage and Mr. Brett McGrath from Stacking Slabs.
Thanks so much, guys. I love the show, and thanks for having me back on. We'll have to do it again soon.
Thanks, Brett. Appreciate it, man. This is a marathon day for you. Thank you, man.
Brett.
Thank you for spending some time with us on another episode of the Lucas, Tigers, and Bronze Oh My podcast. Do us a favor and like, subscribe. You know what? Don't just like and subscribe. Everybody does that. If you like us, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your enemies, tell everybody. And we hope you got something from spending some time with us today, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.